Hi everyone. Hope you're all having a good day. I'm really excited to bake along with you all today. So just to recap, we're going to be making these chocolate chip shortbread cookies. So we'll put those there. I'll drop them. So I hope you've all got your ingredients ready and weighed out, ready to go. So if you want to ask any questions, if you've subscribed, you can ask away and I can answer those as we go along. I'll try keep pausing and making sure everyone's caught up. And sorry if there's any technical Wi-Fi issue. Fingers crossed it's not, but we'll see how we get on. Right, so first up, we're going to grease our baking trays. Well, line our baking trays with baking paper. So this is to bake our biscuits on. So all we want to do is just, if you maybe get an adult to help you, just put yourself some baking paper to line the trays. This means the biscuits won't stick to the trays when they cook, because we want to eat all the biscuits. We don't want to get them stuck to the tray. Just going to do 2 trays, just because depends on the size of your cutters or what size biscuits you make. But I think we'll probably end up with 2 trays worth, because they'll need to be spaced apart as we bake them. So there we go. So we've got our lined trays. Put those there and put my baking paper to one side. I'll just give you guys a couple of seconds. Right. So has everyone got their trays all lined? And then we're going to get to the exciting part of actually making the cookie dough. So what I should say is we all need to have clean hands to begin with. I think now it's more important than ever to clean our hands. So I've just washed mine. So if you need to just quickly run off and wash your hands, that's fine. I'll give you a couple of seconds and then we can start back. It's just really important we've got clean hands. So we've got our ingredients weighed out, so I'll just recap for you all. So we should have 175 grams of plain flour. If we're really struggling for plain flour, self-raising flour should be okay. Your cookies might just puff up a little bit more, so you might end up with slightly more of a biscuity rather than maybe shortbread, but it should work okay. We should have 115 grams of butter. So we need our butter to be soft, not melted. I've had mine out of the fridge today. So if I put my finger in, it creates a bit of an indent, but like that. So that's kind of how you test it was soft enough. And we need 50 grams of sugar. On the recipe, it says cast sugar. I've got light brown sugar, just because that's what I had a lot more of. I've not got much cast sugar at the moment, but brown sugar will work absolutely fine. Any sugar will be okay. Brown sugar will get a slightly more caramelly flavour, but it should be fine. And I've got some chocolate chips to put in mine, and I've also got some vanilla extract. This is optional. It'll just give it a bit more of a sweeter flavour to the biscuit. If you haven't got it, it's fine. The chocolate chips are also optional. If you haven't got any chocolate chips, you could add some chopped nuts, you could add some dried fruit. Or you could just do them completely plain if you haven't got anything. If you haven't got anything else to put in. Okay, I think we've just got a quick question before we start. How hot for a fan oven? So I'll go through the oven temperatures after, but we don't want to heat the oven yet, because we're actually going to have to chill the biscuits in the fridge before we bake them. So there's no point wasting any electricity and having the oven on already. So we'll turn that off and we'll go through that in a little while. So to start making our biscuits, we're going to need our mixing bowl and our spatula or wooden spoon or whatever spoon you've got. So we'll put our butter in the bowl. And our sugar. in the bowl. There we go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do something that we call the creaming method. So we're going to cream the butter and the sugar together. So to do this, you just need to mix your sugar into your butter, and you want a really nice smooth consistency. If you're using brown sugar like me, you might get a couple of lumps because brown sugar is a bit lumpier than caster sugar, but if you keep mixing, you should mix those lumps out. You can see my mixture's gone slightly brown. That's due to the brown sugar. If you're using caster sugar, it'll remain more of a buttery colour, but you should see it go slightly lighter, which means you've got a nice creamed mixture. So there we go. So it just needs a really good mix. You don't worry about over mixing it. That's not a problem. It's making sure it's mixed through enough, which is what we need to worry about. So it should look something like this. Be nice and smooth. So once we've got this sort of consistency, we're ready to add our vanilla extract if we're adding it. I can't open this. No, I've got it. So I'm just going to add about a teaspoonful of vanilla. There we go. If you're not adding vanilla, don't worry. Just give your batter a bit of an extra mix. If you're feeling really adventurous and have the ingredients in, you could add some other extracts. So we could add some orange, and we could make some chocolate orange shortbread. That'd be really yummy. Lemon, probably wouldn't go quite as nice with the milk chocolate chips, but be really nice with white chocolate chips. But yeah, or you can just we don't need it. So there we go. So we should have our nice creamed butter and sugar mixture, and now it's time to add the flour. So if we pour the flour into the mixture, and now we'll start to mix. So you'll see, as you mix it in, you'll think there's an awful lot of flour, and you'll have a really crumbly mixture. This is good. This is what we want for a nice shortbread, because to create that lovely like melt in the mouth shortbread texture, you need a really short mixture, which this is, which is why it looks quite crumbly and will be slightly more difficult to handle, but it's worth it for that really nice short texture you'll get. Just mix it together, and you'll see the dough starting to form. Right, and then this is the bit where if you're adding anything like chocolate chips or any other ingredients, if we add them in now, just going to put those up there out of the way. We'll need to begin to mix these in now. Right, there we go. So now this is the exciting bit. This is where we can get our hands messy. This is why it's important we've got really clean hands to begin with, because we're going to put it in the mixture. So I find it much easier to bring the mixtures together with my hands. We'll start bringing the mixture, pushing it together. Probably have a very crumbly, delicate dough, which is good. That's what we want. You need to start pushing it together. So the good thing about shortbread biscuits is they last quite a long time in the biscuit tin. So this is a great recipe. They can put them in your tin and they'll probably last you the week. Well, ours don't because we eat them too quickly. But if you don't eat them all, they will last a little while. So they are quite a nice like biscuit tin filler. So we've got a sort of question. You've mixed it all together. It'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. If you, that's we should have it all the ingredients mixed together now, so it'll work absolutely fine. No eating it yet. Although we can try it in a bit, because that's the good thing about this recipe. There's no egg in it, so we can try a little bit of the cookie dough, but not yet. We need to roll it all out first. Right, so once we've got the dough into some sort of ball, doesn't matter if there's a bit, if it's very crumbly. Okay, that's okay. What I'll do is I'll here we go. So if you want to get it into a bit of a ball consistency like that, I'll put that to the side and just give you all a moment to catch up. So so whilst you're catching up, once you've finished your bake, if you'd like to take a photo of it and send it over to me on Facebook, my Facebook page is Beautiful Bakes by Beth. I think the link's down in the description. I'd love to see your creations. So just whilst you're all getting the dough together, don't worry, it won't come together in a really, it will still be quite crumbly, but that's absolutely fine. I'm going to show you all a little technique of how to roll out the dough nice and simply, and also with it being quite a short dough, it'll keep it all nicely together. So you'll want to cut yourself 2 more squares of parchment paper. If you haven't got any more parchment paper, that's okay. You can do it on a floured surface. Just find this way is much easier. I just thought I'd share the little tip with you all. So we want 2 pieces roughly the same size, and what we're going to do is we're going to put our mixture on 1 sheet of greaseproof. So you can see mine is not, it's still very crumbly. So if it's easy, you could potentially do this in 2 halves. I might do that actually because it might just help because I've only got little hands, so it's easier to just only handle half the dough at once. So if we've got half the dough like that, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it down on our sheet of greaseproof paper. If you don't have greaseproof, that's fine. Just sprinkle some flour on the surface and put the dough onto there. And then also, if you don't have the greaseproof, you want to put a bit of flour on your rolling pin as well. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put the next piece of greaseproof on top and gently push down. So we're flattening it a little bit. And then we get our rolling pin, and I just tend to flatten it with the rolling pin a little bit. Spin it round. It's important if you're doing this on a floured surface to keep moving the dough, because what you don't want to happen is it will stick to the surface and then you'll have to start again. So, right, so now we'll have something a little bit like this. So then what I do is just push it back together, push it down a bit. Doesn't matter if it's a bit cracked, it's okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start rolling it out. So because I've got chocolate chips in mine, I'll probably roll it out to the thickness of the chocolate chips, because it won't let me roll it any thicker because the chocolate chips will stop it. If you've not got chocolate chips in yours, I'd probably go to the thickness of maybe I'm trying to think. The thickness of, tend to say like a pound coin or something like that. I mean, like that, it doesn't matter. If they're a little bit thicker, they might just take slightly longer to bake, and you won't get as many biscuits out of your mixture. So as you can see, once you start rolling it out, it soon comes together really nicely. I'm just going to do one more roll, and I can feel with my rolling pin that it won't go any, because it's catching on the chocolate chips. So now with the half that I've rolled out, half of my dough, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my baking tray that I've already lined ready to the side, and then we're going to cut out the biscuit dough. So this is the fun bit, because I like it, because you can make lots of nice shapes, and they'll look all nice and pretty. So I've got a few different variations of cutters. So I've got a heart, star, and a circle. Some of you might not have any cutters, that's absolutely fine. A top tip that I'm going to show you is to get a basic round cutter. We can just use an upturned glass, which is really easy. We'll just push it into the dough. If you're using chocolate chips in your mixture, you might find some of them might get caught on the biscuit dough on the glass. You just need to push down. If you don't want to use a glass, you can use a plastic cup as well, if that's a bit safer. Don't want to go around smashing any glasses. So you can just use your upturned glass like that. Or if you are feeling really creative, what you can do is you can print out a nice shape online and cut round it with some greaseproof paper and use that as a like a template to cut round for your biscuit dough. It's a bit more complicated and takes a bit more time, but I think we've all got quite a bit of time at the moment, so if you want to try that when you next make them, that's something you can do. What I should say as well at this point is, obviously I've got half the dough. I'm going to do all of my biscuits, but if you don't want to make many biscuits, you want to save some dough, you can wrap the dough that's left up in some cling film and pop it in the freezer, and it will freeze for about a month really easily, and then you'll just need to get it out and defrost it to room temperature, and then you're ready to roll it out and use it again. So I'm just going to carry on cutting the shapes out. I'm going to do different shapes. I tend to cut all the shapes out and then I will put it onto the tray. There we go. So I'm going to use a palette knife to pick up the biscuit, but if you want to just use your hands, that's also fine. Just remember, because it's a shortbread dough, it's a little bit more delicate, so you want to just handle it nice and gently. And if that happens, you can just push it back together. There we go. And then I'm going to get the rest of the good thing you can do if you got it on Greaseproof is just pick up the Greaseproof and pour it into the bowl with the rest of your dough. And then we can start to bring this all together. Left a little bit in the bowl, that doesn't matter because there'll be some cuttings of this one, so I can just add them to that. So again, I'm going to start rolling this one out. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to fire away. Or you are busy getting creative and cutting out the cookie dough. If you're really struggling with the dough and it is too crumbly and you can't work with it, then you can add a teaspoon of water and mix that in. But it does affect the texture and it'll make it slightly, it won't have as good like melt in the mouth texture. So if we try not to do that, but if you're really struggling. Okay, cut some more shapes out. My favourite's the heart cutter, so I do more of the heart shapes. There we go. See, what you want to do when you're placing them on the tray is make sure they are spaced slightly apart. This is because hopefully the biscuits shouldn't spread too much when we bake them. And what I mean by spreading is they'll get bigger and flatter. And if you space them too close together, they'll all merge into one another, which we don't. Well, you'll end up with one giant cookie, but then you'll lose all the pretty shapes you spent ages cutting out. So we don't want that. So I'm going to put about 8 on this tray, and then I'm going to swap and get the other tray down. You might end up with more or less cookies than me. It just depends what cutter you're using, how thick you're rolling out the dough. So don't worry. And I'm just going to gather up the last bit of dough. I'm getting on okay. Right, so I'll just get the last up. What shape cutters are you all using to cut out your cookie dough, or what different implements are you using? What I should have said actually as well, if you're struggling for a rolling pin, if we don't have one of those, there's lots of alternatives that we can use. We can use a nice roll of cling film, that works really well. Also a opened, like not an unopened, like bottle, works really easy. It works really well as well. So there's lots of different options you can use there. Oh, so who's making some animal shapes? Oh, what sort of animal shapes? They sound really exciting. What animal shapes? Because yeah, they sound good. Stars, circles, and squares. Oh, they sound nice as well. Here we go. If you roll in. Bears, hedgehogs, and squirrels. Wow, they sound fab. Freddo, like the frogs. Oh, they sound cool, Simon. That's what I love about biscuits, is we can get creative and do all sorts of different shapes. I wanted to do gingerbread men, but the cutter was too big, so I only got about 2 biscuits out of it, which so I have to save that for another day. There we go. I reckon I can maybe get 1 or 2 more biscuits out of this. So if you guys just carry on with your rolling and cutting out. Hopefully the more you're handling it, the dough, the easier it should be getting as well, so that's good. Just a chocolate chip there. Like a jigsaw puzzle, trying to work out where we can get all the biscuits. There we go. So once you've used all the dough you can, and you can't get any more biscuit out of it, you might have a tiny bit left, and this is a good chance to just maybe have a little taste of the biscuit dough, just to try it, because that's really important, isn't it? I want to make sure it tastes nice. got no eggs in this mixture, so it's not too bad having just trying it. But do try and get as many biscuits out as you can, because otherwise you'll end up with no biscuits if you eat all the dough. Right, so I'm going to put all of those. Got another question through? Oh, they'll go perfect with a cup of tea. Yeah, well that's what my plan is. Later, once we've baked these, we'll be having a nice cup of tea with these biscuits. Oh, or a nice glass of milk or something as well will go really nice. Well, or you know, evening glass of wine. So now we should have our trays of biscuits. Don't worry if you're still busy cutting them out. That's absolutely fine. I'll just quickly show you the next step. So once we've cut all the biscuits out, we'll want to gently just prick the top of them with a fork. And this just helps when they're baking, for them to not spread on the baking tray and keep the nice shapes. So you just go over and prick them all with a fork. And then what we're going to do with them is we're going to pop them in the fridge for half an hour to chill. So this is a really important step. I know it delays them from baking, which then delays us from eating them, but it's really important we do this step because it'll firm the dough up, and then once you bake them in the oven, they'll keep the shape, so you'll still have those really nice like animal shapes, the frog shapes you've been cutting out, and then so once you bake them, they'll still keep the shape really nicely. So I'd really recommend that we do chill them for half an hour. So what we'll do is we'll put them in the fridge for half an hour, and then after about 20 minutes, we'll turn our oven on so the oven can nicely be heated up, ready for the biscuits to go in. So the oven temperature we go for is it's 160 degrees for a fan oven, 180 degrees for a normal electric oven, and I think that's gas mark 4. But I can just double check. The link to the whole recipe is actually at the bottom of the description if you want to refer back to it, because I don't know what you're like, but I'd forget that after the chilled for 20 minutes. So yeah, so if you want to pop once you've finished cutting them out and you've pricked them with a fork, if you then pop them in the fridge to chill, and then once they're chilled, you can be ready to bake them, and then they should come out of the oven looking something like this. So once they're baked, I think they bake for about 12 to 15 minutes, but I just keep an eye on them from about 10 minutes because you want them to be a nice golden brown colour, but they're really sneaky because you'll take your eyes off them and they'll suddenly start burning, so we don't want to do that. So yeah, start watching them after about 10 minutes, check them, and then 12, and then they're normally ready, 15 minutes. And your whole house will smell lovely. It'll smell of really nice cookies. And once I'd leave them to cool for about 10 minutes and then put them on a rack to cool completely. And then maybe whilst one's a bit warm, just taste them to check they're okay, because quality control. So I think that's all for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any requests of any recipes you'd like to do in the future, then send them over to me, and I can try my best to do some more of these if we've all enjoyed it. I'll put the whole video up online, so if you want to make them again, or you've just watched along and you want to bake them in future, you can refer back to it. And don't forget, if you send me some photos of your bakes, I'd love to see what you make. So if you send them to Beautiful Bakes by Beth on Facebook, that would be great. Okay, hope you all have a lovely rest of your day and enjoy the cookies. Thank you very much. Bye.